The day has finally come where I can talk about one of my favorite superheroes, and after being tagged, pinged, and alerted by no less than 15 different people about his card's reveal, I am pumped to share my thoughts on Agent Venom. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. Agent Venom has finally come to town, and AMG were kind enough to all but confirm that Agent Venom is indeed in 3 different affiliations. So at this point, the only thing we are missing is the potential for one of the 4 tactic cards to be one that works with him. If we're lucky, maybe even 2 of them, but I'm not getting greedy. However, though, I don't think I can wait another 2 weeks to make this video talking about him. Before we get into the stats, I want to give a quick shout out to the sculpting team at AMG for the job they did with Flash. He's downright fantastic. In my opinion, easily a top 3 sculpt from the line. He's in motion, looks great, very dynamic. I'm excited to get my hands on him. Unfortunately, I can't call out names here because the gallery on AMG's website hasn't been updated in a little bit. So thank you guys, and wonderful job. Also, I want to give a shout out to Paris, who did the art for his character card, for a job well done, especially on the injured side. And with that, let's get into Agent Venom, who has the alter ego of Flash Thompson, which does mean that you can run the CP10 Eddie Brock Venom alongside Flash here, because there's no rule that says otherwise. For those who this might bother, just paint Flash up in his anti-Venom suit instead. Flash does have 6 stamina, moves medium on a 35mm base, which I felt needed clarifying since it seems a lot of people seem to think he was on a 50. Oh well, but still fine. He is size 2 and 4 threat. He has 4 physical defense, 2 energy defense, and 3 mystic defense, which is about what I was expecting since, symbiote. He has 3 different attacks. The first one is Clintar Firepower. It is a physical range 4 attack with a strength of 5, costs nothing, and as you would expect, he will gain power equal to the damage dealt, and on a wild, it will give out the bleed condition. His next attack is an energy one called Incendiary Grenade, which I just feel like is a missed opportunity to give him an attack called Go Long or Hail Mary, but, whatever. It has a range of 3, strength of 5, and does cost 1 power. For that extra power spent, you get a guaranteed Incinerate onto the target, which is something a lot of affiliations are going to appreciate when it comes to dealing damage to some of the tankier characters out there. His final attack is where things get a bit spicy. Symbiote Special Forces is a physical beam 3 with a strength of 7 and cost 4 power. The interesting part is that on a wild and a hit, he triggers Lashing Tendrils. It says after each attack is resolved, deal 1 damage to each other enemy character within range 2 of this character. So if Venom is able to end up near a few baddies, even if he can't line the beam up on all of them, if he can still get within range 1 or 2, he's able to deal possibly 1 or 2 free damage from the tendrils. Not to mention the enemies that are already in the beam will also be affected by this. So this beam can hit pretty hard. We then get into his array of 5 different superpowers. First, we have his active Symbiote Web Swing. It costs 2 power and lets him place himself within range 3 of his current position. It can only be used once per turn, but it's also effectively a free move as long as you have 2 power, which is a really nice ability. His second superpower is one that I think is sneaky cool. Project Rebirth 2.0 is another active power that costs 1 and lets you remove a special condition from Agent Venom. So a free shake to get rid of a nasty shock or stagger is great. However, it's not technically a shake, and because of that, he can use this to get rid of conditions while within Crystal's and Wanda's no-shake bubbles to get rid of a nasty hex or incinerate. Then finally, we have All-Star Quarterback. It costs 3 and lets him throw an enemy character or terrain feature that is size 3 or less that is within 2, and you're able to throw that short. And like most other throws, can only be used once per turn. So a size 3 control element is great, not to mention another source of damage output. We then have two different innate powers. First is Symbiotic Instincts, which may sound familiar. It says while this character is attacking, the defending character cannot modify its defense dice. This is an ability that is often forgot about on Eddie's card, but its implications are pretty widespread and powerful. This will take away your opponent's rerolls, which is cool, but it also means all of Flash's attacks will ignore things like cover, making him a very lethal ranged damage dealer on setups like Scoundrels. His other innate ability is Wall Crawler, which will let him move around quite freely on the battlefield. So let's dig into what roles our former quarterback is going to shine in, and where he falls a little bit short. Thankfully, he has plenty of good things to talk about. His overall role that he fits into really nicely is a mobile damage dealer. A range 30 place for 2 power is just fantastic to have, and it being accompanied with several long-range attacks will let Venom be a great character to run down a beat-up Toad that's running to the hills, or just let him do some damage from the edges of the battlefield while not committing too heavily himself. Now, unfortunately for a 4 threat who is wanting to deal out some damage, he doesn't have any offensive consistency like a reroll on attacks, count blanks, etc., but he has something that's at least kind of similar. Symbiotic Instincts doesn't help your dice, but it will certainly hinder your opponent's. All of Venom's attacks basically say ignore cover and no rerolls, which is something that's more valuable against certain teams and targets, but when taking shots from range 4, odds are more often than not your opponent can find a way to have cover, and this almost becomes a Pyrrhus-like effect in those instances. Now, don't get me wrong, rerolls most of the time would still be better, but he is also still in a good spot offensively with this. Not to mention the size 3 throw in his kit gives him both the potential for a 4 damage hit, but also some control, which is always welcome on a 4 threat character. A little bonus tick for him is the Project Rebirth, letting him be even more action efficient without needing to worry about shaking off a bad condition here and there. And then that in conjunction with the web swing giving him a free move basically, it's all really good. He's just going to be able to double attack pretty much every turn after round 1. But it's not all perfect. Venom is still Venom and has a pretty glaring weakness because of it. 2 energy defense is rough. Now granted, not all teams will easily have access to an energy attack to take advantage of this weakness, but it is something certainly to steer clear of if you can, which thankfully he can manage for the most part because of that great mobility he has, but he doesn't really have any sort of defensive tech at all, which is a bummer. I wouldn't have minded maybe an inherited spider sense to let him reroll a single defense die on his own, or maybe even just stealth to help ward off some of the long-range energy attacks, since the symbiote can do camouflage stuff. But I'm also one who wouldn't have minded if Flash was a bit overtuned. So all in all, we have a mobile damage dealer with a touch of control, but is also going to look more like a glass cannon if your opponent has a couple of good energy attacks. Now, we haven't seen his tactic cards yet, so there's a chance he gets a We Are Venom style healing attack to help on a card, but nothing to confirm yet. As for affiliations, I think Thompson will be playable in all of his affiliated homes, which is really all you can ask for at this point in the game, with there's so many characters and just you don't really see a lot of Splash 4s anymore. He fits in line with the Web Warrior control and mobility playstyle, while also offering some solid damage output and answers to some of the tankier targets in the game. The Guardians of the Galaxy offer him some offensive modification, and he offers them another long-range attacker, which is nice at the 4 threat, and something they are in desperate need of with his control. Shield, he seems like an easy threat upgrade from the Howling Commandos 3 threat into a 4 threat version of them that suddenly becomes more mobile, more damagey, and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, my few games with Shield aren't really enough to tell me how much he is able to help. But I'll definitely be trying out what probably looks like a very different Shield once Spider-Woman and Agent Venom's pack is out. So that's all I have for now regarding Flash. As always, I want to say thanks to the members of the Guildhall who are supporting the channel and podcast with your contributions. And if you're shopping for your mini stuff online, consider using the guild sponsors to support an LGS that's hosting game nights and a place to play for their local players. If you're over in the UK, shop at Tritex. You can use the code TritexGGCP5 at checkout for an extra 5% off of your order. And if you use that on a pre-order item like Rhino, it'll save you up to 25% off. And if you are in the US, head to gamechefs.org and use the code GamersGuild, no spaces, to save an extra 15% off of their already discounted prices, which comes out to a really good bargain on your end. However, I will say, and continue to say, if you're shopping from your own LGS, keep supporting them. We all understand and appreciate you doing that. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.